This video is brought to you by Blessed Be God Boutique, maker of Catholic fashionable apparel, handmade accessories, and more. Just when we thought that maybe, just maybe, we were finally going to be past and done with the Pachamama debacle from 2019 and leave it behind us, we have another story of idolatry and all things pagan being embraced by the church in a very public way. And this time it's pretty unambiguous concerning the demonic nature of what we're talking about. Even more revealing is that the Catholic public was confronted with what I'm about to show you and mostly just shrugged about it or even applauded the demonic display. This story comes out of Germany, and it brings to mind another story that I sat on from June that combined together really shows that the spirit of Pachamama is alive and well in the institution calling itself the Catholic Church today. So brace yourselves for this as we dive in. But first, I wanted to thank the patrons and channel supporters for their continued support of return to tradition in these weird times. Your support is greatly appreciated. For like $1 a month, the supporters of my work get early access to weekend videos and occasional exclusive content. So if you want to join in supporting them, there are links to Patreon, Subscribestar, a Patreon alternative, and other options in the description box below. Thanks again, and now on to the bad news about a Catholic community entering into pagan apostasy with the assistance of their church priest. The first example takes us to Fulda, Germany, which had been more famous as the site that John Paul II back in 1980 may have told the world the third secret of Fatima without actually stating that he was giving the third secret of Fatima. I have a video on that if you would like to see it, but it's sufficient to say here that at one time the Catholic laity of Fulda, Germany had been orthodox in their belief in the not terribly distant past. Fast forward to 2022 amidst the Synod on Synodality, and we get this. Headline from rponline.de. Irritations about bone sculptures in the church. This story may honestly take the cake, aside from the initial Pachamama story in 2019. This may be the biggest and most grotesque example of prelates of the church absolutely just going off the rails and embracing the world and all of its twisted values. The story focuses on a blasphemous bone sculpture display. I will show you here one picture here and only briefly. Yes, that's supposed to be a skeleton done up as the Virgin Mary. More on that after the story. I'll get that garbage off your screen now. Trust me, that's really only part of it. From the article, quote, according to the report of a German news outlet name that I have butchered horribly when trying to pronounce it, on Wednesday, there is applause from visitors and connoisseurs, as well as irritation with a view to the works made of metal, scrap, and human skulls and bones, among other things. The HNA writes of dismay and at times dismay among some conservative Catholics. The Diocese of Fulda, which is responsible for Kassel, on the other hand, welcomed the opportunity for the show to bring cultures together. The exhibition moves minds in different ways, the diocese told the German press agency. There are definitely people who are provoked by this form of exhibition who perceive it as strange. The spiritual traditions and images from Haiti may seem strange to some visitors at first, but the pictorial way of dealing with death has direct parallels and correspondences in the Catholic Baroque tradition. For example, in the form of a realistic skeleton in Fulda Cathedral, or the handling of display relics in various churches. The diocese went on to explain, in the Caribbean world, the attention to detail when dealing with these motifs is often more intense than in our culture. The encounter between the two is now happening in the church. The diocese welcomes the opening of the church for such an encounter. The Haitian artists behave very respectfully in the church and are in constant direct contact with the representatives of the church community. Pastor Martin Gies from the parish of St. Antonius, to which the church belongs, explained, at first glance, the morbid-looking sculptures would have caused irritation and, in some cases, horrors in some viewers. Oh, you don't say. In contrast, the reaction to the exhibition is very positive in the majority of cases. End quote. There was an almost passing reference to Haiti made in the article. Haiti's key here. Those depictions that are causing a stir come right out of Voodoo. Yes, that practice of serving demons that co-opts Catholic imagery and ideas and puts it at the service of the demonic. Yes, that practice. This is a demonic display from Haiti, and the fact that the majority of responses from the laity have been positive is really revealing, though not terribly surprising. The synod on synodality worldwide is being driven by the laity. And Germany has been in the headlines about this for going on 3 years now because the German bishops and the laity are willing to move forward on rejecting the Catholic faith in order to make the church more open into dialogue and welcoming by aligning it with secular values. So this is not that surprising in the slightest, to be honest. But let's get back to that demonic skeleton image I showed you earlier, though I'm not going to put it on the screen again. That was done up as the Virgin Mary. It's a depiction of a demonic entity known, you're going to know this mostly from Mexico, but it's also known in Haiti by the blasphemous name of Our Lady of Death, Nuestra Senora la Santa Muerta. As it turns out, there's a lot of crossover between Santa Muerta in Mexico and that other practice in Haiti. According to a 2013 study called The African Roots of La Santa Muerta, many demonic rituals and observations have a similar origin, and in this case, we're seeing more of the same. In Mexico, a festival for this demonic garbage is thrown on the Feast of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary, August 15th. Yeah, that's when they do it. And this display in Germany was up at the same time. That's no coincidence. But the common link here is the error of syncretism, which newadvent.org defines as, quote, the fusion of various religious forms and views. Pretty straightforward. This definition is going to be most familiar to us as a concept that comes from both the modernist enemies of the church within the institutional church and her atheistic adversaries outside, who claim that the Old Testament is a fusion of various different beliefs from different places in a clear attempt to undermine the claims of the Catholic Church and the inerrancy of sacred scripture. We see this all the time. So a display of this kind on the Feast of the Assumption isn't really that surprising. That's what they're going for here. It is a sign of the ongoing apostasy in the church. Catholic history is full of examples of idols being torn asunder by the faithful with the full-throated support of the hierarchy of the church. Now the hierarchy places idols in the Vatican and allows demonic displays like this one in parish churches. But unfortunately, it's not the only story of this kind I have for you. Back in June is the story that I sat on for a while. It's the story of a display of Mother Earth in a different chapel that was reported. I sat on the story for a while due to the news of other kinds coming in pretty fast at the time. June was really busy here. But remember, Pachamama, yes, I'm purposely saying that demon's name wrong, literally translates to Mother Earth. Try not to use that terminology if you can. It's literally demonic. The story comes from Novus Ordo Watch. Headline, Mother Earth in Church. Gaia exhibition defiles Catholic Cathedral in Ireland. So now we have a bishop involved. Once Catholic Ireland is really moving with the spirit of the age, like, frankly, most of the rest of the church. I sometimes wonder what happened to Ireland, how Ireland got to this place, but the Irish are not alone. This apostasy we're seeing unfolding in the church is everywhere. As that data I showed you just last week illustrated, it showed that in the United States, only 15% of Catholics attend Mass frequently. And most don't really go to confession, but rarely. From the article, quote, how much the world has invaded the church since the 1960s is currently on striking display at St. Colman's Cathedral in Cobe, County Cork, Ireland. A spinning giant replica of planet Earth presently hangs from the ceiling of the magnificent Catholic Cathedral that was constructed between 1868 and 1919. Called Gaia after a pagan earth deity, this installation was created by artist Luke Jerram and is part of the Cork Midsummer Festival, which ran June 15th to the 26th of this year. The official page of the festival, an event which also includes salacious James Martin Dance Theater, although at least not in the cathedral, advertises the exhibition as follows. See the Earth in a whole new way in this spectacular and eerily beautiful installation by Luke Jerram, creator of the Museum of the Moon, Cork Midsummer Festival 2017. Named for Gaia, the personification of the Earth in Greek mythology, and measuring 7 meters in diameter, this floating sculpture features spectacularly high-resolution imagery of the Earth's surface provided by NASA, providing the opportunity to see our planet closer to its true scale, floating in 3 dimensions, alongside a specially made composition by BAFTA award-winning composer Dan Jones. Mesmerizing, thought-provoking, and it's not to be missed. End quote. I'm glad I missed it. The author of that piece goes on to remind us that our Lord told us not to be overly concerned with the state of nature or to be overly concerned with material concerns. The Novus Ordo Watch author also points out the obvious. That model of the earth is so large that no one will have their eyes on the tabernacle. That display has since come down since it was put up 2 months ago, but it does beg a serious question. What were they thinking? Most people, when I ask in a video here, will admit that they think the Pachamama ritual in Rome in 2019 unleashed evil on the earth that we're still dealing with now, and I agree. But I have to wonder, was it mental corruption unleashed on the church with Laudato Si? Francis's encyclical on Care for Our Common Home, as he calls it, really puts a materialistic spin on Catholic social teaching and contradicted Catholic social teaching in ways that simply cannot be overemphasized. And yet here we are, now with the tabernacle blotted out by a giant earth, replacing the real presence in the tabernacle as an object of worship, as an object of veneration. That's the only thing that can be taken away by watching these things unfold. One wonders if there is a real presence in that tabernacle to begin with, given that a priest has to intend to do what the church intends to do when he consecrates a host during Mass. Intention matters in all things. But there it is. The saga and influence of Pachamama continues in the church, going on now for 3 years since the initial real Pachamama event in the Vatican Gardens. One has to wonder what the 3rd anniversary of the demonic event will bring in October on the feast of St. Francis of Assisi, who happens to be my confirmation saint, by the way, which is why I took this all personally. I'm curious what you think of this. Do you see the links between Santa Muerta and that practice from Haiti? Is this much ado about nothing? Is that display in Ireland much ado about nothing? Or are they both signs of a serious problem in the church that seems to be getting worse? Let me know what you think in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It really does help, as does sharing this on social media. And thanks again to the supporters of Return to Tradition. Your support is greatly appreciated. As always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.